regular Board of Appeals meeting for March 21st, 2024. Roll call.
Paul Darling,
Here.
Robert Hart,
Here.
Hugh Flack,
Here.
Kevin Cox,
Here.
David Ernstorff is absent. For city staff, we have Michael Redmond,
Here.
Mike Lemieux,
Here.
myself, Deborah Williams. We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. First item on the agenda is public commentary, not associated with appeal. Looks like there is no one for that. Second item is the approval of the agenda. Do you have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. A second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Approval of the minutes from the November 16, 2023 meeting. There are some minutes attached to the packet. Any comments on those adjustments? If not, can we have a motion?
Move to approve the minutes. Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those pass. The next item on the agenda is appeals, actions, and show cause hearing. We have one appeal today for BBA 24001, appeal for 803 McKinney in Arbor 48104. And so how the appeal process works, we'll have the applicant come up and to the stand and sign in. Then we'll have the staff report make their staff recommendations on the appeal. The applicant can present their case, and then the board will have questions for the applicant, and then we'll make a motion. So for the appeal to pass, we need a majority of the members present to pass, so that would be 3 today?
Would be 3.
Okay. So you can come up and sign in and state your name, and then we'll get a staff report.
Good afternoon. My name is Anna Epperson. I'm from OX Studio, representing the owner and the address of 803 McKinley. Do you want me to go into further or staff?
You do staff report first? Staff report first.
Thank you. And I've signed in already.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So the property at 803 McKinley is an R2 occupancy, built in 1890. It's 4 units over a shared basement. There's access from each of the above units down to the space in the basement. It's open to 2 units and then a door between the other 2 units in the basement level. But all of the access to it is unobstructed from the units above. The staff recommends denying this appeal. The building official has determined that this is a change of use, a partial change of use, which would require compliance with Chapter 10 of the Michigan Rehabilitation Code. Essentially going into what the applicant had provided in their appeal summary, is that they mentioned that areas like this could, pardon me, could be used for things such as pool tables, exercise equipment, and things of that nature, which would be considered part of an R3 use if that was the type of building. This is an R2 use, and common spaces in R2 are not considered an R2 use. With that being said, any change from what looks like now with the additional information looks like a small assembly which would go to a business use, would be a change of use to the R2 occupancy that's proposed in the permit application.
Okay, thank you. So now the applicant can come up and present your appeal.
Sure. Thank you, everyone, for your time today and the opportunity to come before you and speak on this case. And again, thank you for, I know we've had many conversations with the building official on this actual appeal and the initial rulings on the case. So we really appreciate the continued dialogue and to try to come to a resolution for this. So thank you for that. We feel like we're really here to discuss this, this definition of occupancy. To date, this lower level has been described to us as 3 different uses from the initial permit response comments. And it really is, I think, something that has also been acknowledged by the building official, something that's somewhat ambiguous, and has been stated to us that even when pertaining to residential basements, that the code doesn't reference this exact scenario that we're dealing with. So we've been told that it's a storage space, also utility, and now it's an assembly space. So we feel that with the nature of the building, which I'll get into in just a minute, that it still falls underneath the residential use category, and that's what we tried to argue in our commentary and our appeals application. So just to provide a little bit more information on the structure itself, it was built in 1890. It's a side-by-side structure, 4 units in total. Each unit, goes from essentially from first floor up to roof. It could almost by some standards be townhouse type, but due to the nature and the year of construction and changes in code, it really doesn't fall within that townhouse category because we can't have the full firewalls in between. We don't meet any of those initial categories, and it doesn't go, the firewall doesn't go from full structure, slab, foundation, all the way up to roof. But it has very much that side-by-side nature. It does sit atop the shared basement that is subdivided and shared by 2 units. There's a masonry firewall that's in between, and there was at one time, I believe, a door that was fully closing that was also rated. So it really brings it back down to more of almost a 2-family type situation. The proposed work is to basically just extend those walls, subdividing each unit, so adding 2 more demising walls in the basement to separate into 4 units. And we have the contiguous stair that's already there to add 2 more sleeping units in the basement and a rated furnace enclosure and washer and dryer. The washer and dryer and furnaces already exist in the basements today. So it's already being utilized as storage type function, as a utility type function. We don't know, we can make conjecture that it has also been used as a place where there may be some additional features, but that's kind of conjecture. It really does, I think, serve as a true more residential type basement feel that you would see in a single or multifamily, or 2-family type dwelling where it's a basement that services the use of the residents themselves. This is something that we really feel is key to the interpretation. And as I stated, the new construction would really serve to extend those units and really create the true separation between units from slab up to roof to the best that we can without going into the whole townhome scenario. The description that we provided in the packet in terms of, a recreation space, I think was a little bit misconstrued in the sense that there is, again, this space is utilized as utility. It is utilized as storage. It could be utilized as a lounge type space or a recreation type use where there may be some exercise equipment, there may be some pool tables, very much like you would find in excess space within a lower level of a home. So I think that the change to, the initial response from the permit comments was that this is a storage. It wasn't defined to us whether or not it was S1 or S2. Our initial response to our permit comments was to, we really didn't know where to go with the code path, so we looked at incidental use as an exception to that. And incidental use fairly clearly states that they're ancillary function associated with a given occupancy that generally poses a greater level of risk to the occupancy and limited to those in 509, but the exception, incidental uses within and serving a dwelling unit are not required to comply with this section. It also states that you can have an incidental use in single or mixed use occupancy, and that those would, it doesn't state, it says serving a dwelling unit. That the code official came back and said that, quote, that it's really more of a utility space. The code does not reference this exact scenario. He did say prior to that he should note in a past interpretation, I had indicated the basement or cellar was considered storage. I should correct that statement. While most owners or occupants have used that lower level for storing various items that they have, it really is more of a utility space. The code does not reference this exact scenario. So that kind of our opening statement. Upon further dialogue, we disagree with the decision that there is a change of use, as I've stated. So we began kind of the discussions on how to move forward with an appeal. This was part of our discussion about how this basement area could be used or is used in multiple options. And it was a little bit surprising in reading the staff report that this is now being considered an assembly type space, but defaulting from under 50 occupants, we're now in a business use. So, which is understand clear definition per code, but now again, we're in a third use group. So we feel like this is still really there's no single definition that applies to this space, and that it really is a support function for the residents and should remain part of the residential use function. I just want to note that I think we also, while we submitted the appeal based upon the true intent of the code the true intent of the code or the rules governing construction had been incorrectly interpreted. We also feel that the only thing that's triggering this appeal for us is that this change in occupancy, that we actually still also meet, that we're providing an equal or better type of construction based on the actual nature of what is currently existing within the structure itself. So currently it is open to between 2 units. Because the door is missing, it's open to 4, but we are making this a much safer condition by installing the demising walls between the units. That we're providing egress from the 2 bedrooms directly out. The furnaces are going to be located in rated enclosures. So we're actually making any chance of spread of any kind of fire or smoke is really limited to within the dwelling unit itself, which is much better than what the current condition provides, as there's none. And I'll just reiterate that each unit has a staircase that is leading down. We're not modifying the stair at all. We're just enclosing that and making sure it's maintained within the units themselves. I think with that, I think I've said most of what I want to say.
Thank you for summary there. Very, very good.
Can I
Yeah.
just add a couple of things? I think that when we look at the better, equivalent or better than code, it's not looking at it as what it is right now. It's looking at it as what the code requirements are, and that they're presenting something equally. What it comes down to is a suppression system or a sprinkler system that would be required in that area, not the whole building, but the area that's being remodeled, or in the area of the change of use.
Okay.
I just wanted to add that
Okay,
information.
that's helpful to know. Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
That's a big ad.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
that didn't come out in the packet.
Yeah.
I think it's noted in the very beginning, but it's mentioned briefly. But yes,
Yeah,
that
in
is
the
that is the main
section
reason for our appeal. So I'll also
10.12.1.
state that the change of use triggers the requirement for a suppression system in the
Yeah, yeah.
lower level, which we feel
Yeah.
is quite an undertaking to add 8 bedrooms.
This could be a residential level or R13 system, or what kind of system would trigger for this kind of use?
I believe we would be under the R13 from what we've.
It'd be
I
R13.
mean, those are the more affordable systems versus the,
Yes, it wouldn't be a full-on NFPA 13 system.
oh, no,
And then it'd be-
13R or whatever.
Yeah, it'd be a 13R system,
Okay.
which is residential use.
Okay, all right.
And I believe we are looking into what that could entail, but there's still, we need to look at what the
Yeah.
incoming service is, if there's even an existing tap, and if that would, so it could be quite an extensive undertaking.
But per your packet, the intent is to make those bedrooms in the basement, correct?
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. So there'd be 2 bedrooms with each unit, so we'd be adding 2 bedrooms to each existing unit, along with furnaces would be maintained within each unit in the basement and a rated closet, and then there would be a washer dryer in each unit as well.
And you're having to put in means of egress? Window
Yeah,
wells?
each bedroom has a means of egress. So there'll be an egress window in each bedroom located, which there's currently, only means out currently from the basement is back up through the stair. And I think there's one exterior stair in the basement itself. So when the new scheme, any individual occupant within the bedrooms would have a means out, but they also meet the requirements of underneath the 75-foot
Travel distance.
egress up to the exterior door.
So is this considered a 3-story building now or a 4-story
It's
building?
2.5, actually.
2.5?
Yeah, so it does have a 3rd story, but the ceilings are pretty low. So there are, I think there's 1 bedroom up there currently.
Okay, so it's an occupied
Yeah.
piece.
Yeah. But it's considered 2.5 story.
So a little bit more information seems
Sure.
to be coming out with each
Keep
telling.
down this road.
So the very top floor, regardless of the ceiling height, it is being used as a bedroom?
I believe so. Is that correct, Dan? I think that, and that's something that our scope of work really only entails the basement. Sorry, I'm just looking at this. I do know that in previous inspection reports, that has been cited a couple of times where I think there's habitable space up there, but it's been questionable because the ceiling is quite low.
Yeah, okay.
And I don't know, I know that there was attempts, I think, to raise that structure, but it's,
Okay.
and there's been appeals granted
Okay.
that they didn't have to because it's quite an extensive undertaking.
So it's only may be finished, but it may not be habitable, legally habitable.
Right, which is, I think, the 2.5 story
Yeah, yeah.
where that definition comes in.
Well, I mean, even though it's not part of the scope of the work, in my mind, that's kind of relevant, because if the top floors are being used as a bedroom, that means that, I mean, it's a little hard to follow the whole staircase scenario here. It looks like there are internal staircases, and there are also staircases that are essentially fire escapes.
There are fire escapes in the existing structure.
But one of the main ways to get to the bedrooms on the very top floor are through another bedroom on the floor below.
Right, which I believe that is one thing I believe has been cited by inspectors in the past.
So
But
there's really no way to control this.
It's more like a suite, I guess. You're saying it's a bedroom off a bedroom or bedroom, you know?
Yeah.
right, it would be converted into a single bedroom.
Yeah, yeah.
Is
I see.
what I would expect, or a larger loft type space.
And what is the construction type? Is it 5B or 5A?
5B.
So there's, you
It's
were saying
all-
that the fire separation between units is really whatever was built in the 20s.
Right.
Yeah, there may
It's
be an
all wood
equivalency of
construction,
1 hour,
plaster
but-
and lath.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Is there interconnection to hardwire smoke detection system now? Is there interconnection smoke detectors at all the levels as far
I
as?
don't believe there is any currently, Dan, do you? Right. There is not currently, but with the renovation work.
Okay.
We will be including those, I know for sure, in
Be
the
required,
new
yeah,
work.
for the new
But
work.
in the existing
That connect
bedroom
all the
suites,
way.
yeah, it would be interconnected.
Would that be compliant with the R2 use group, or would it need a building-wide fire alarm system, or you'd want to separate each one separately, so if one went off, they wouldn't all 4 go off? Level of the system there.
I think you'd have to have it connected.
You mean connected between units? Or just
No,
connected?
no, no.
within?
No,
mean
not
between-
connected between units, but connected
Between-
into.
Internal, yeah, all
Yes,
four.
those would be
Yeah,
internally
yeah.
connected.
Well,
I've seen it both ways, you know.
yeah, in a case like this, especially since this is starting to approach townhouse develop, but it doesn't have the true separation
Doesn't
between,
have the firewalls.
doesn't have the firewalls, I would see.
It may
them
not be a
being
UL
into-
right wall, it may be a wall, but it may not be a UL listed assembly, it may be a half an hour.
1890 fire
Yeah.
code.
It's probably
Right, it would be an
plaster
archaic
on
system.
wood slab. Yeah.
I don't think it would be so unreasonable to have it
I
fully
don't disagree with you.
interconnected, yeah. I mean, across all
Yeah,
four.
yeah. Sometimes that's a problem, because one goes off, then people get used to false alarms, so I don't know what they'd recommend there.
There's a lot in NFPA 72 to take into consideration
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah. So I mean,
Meaning,
Meaning the type of construction, how much
Oh.
is there, and how, I mean,
Yeah.
you can look at some of the things, you can have floors that are activated differently.
yeah,
The top floor below,
Yeah.
but not the whole building.
yeah.
I would actually have to look into the code book
Yeah.
to give a true comment on that.
I mean, at that point, the system's probably so complicated, it may be easier to sprinkle. You know, the level, it's not more than just a residential interconnected 4 or 5 head, you know, alarm.
There's no separation, true fire separation
Yeah.
in there, so
Yeah, uh-huh.
I would probably look at, if it was a fire alarm system, that it would be a connected system.
Mm-hmm.
So using the attic space, third floor space, as a bedroom right now, you're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bedrooms in the home. And if, I guess, how does it fall under the rental, like having people in an unclassified bedroom? You know, and I know that there's codes that they have to meet for
Housing code
inspections
inspects, yeah.
and stuff like that
Yeah.
every single week, but
Yeah.
having people in an area, because, I mean, in the basement, what's the difference than them throwing a cot in the middle of or in the corner of the wall and having them just have people in the basement right now? You're just
How
gonna
do
put
you
drywall up right now.
manage that? Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
all they're asking for right now, but like,
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot more to this scenario as it unfolds than just building some firewalls in the basement for separation issues. I feel like there's a few different code violations that are happening than just the basement issue. Especially having to go through a bedroom to get out of an occupied space. You know, yeah, it just seems like a lot unfolded throughout the conversation than what's really here.
I think one of the issues is the fact that the building is getting much more dense and much more burdened with occupied space. And what you're proposing to do in the basement, it isn't really an equal or better construction. It's what you have to do, regardless of you just have to do it because that's the code requirement. You're not giving more back into the building to make it
Above and beyond.
safer,
to make-
above
yeah,
and beyond.
Yeah, that offset.
Are you saying that by adding the separation walls, that's a minimum requirement? Is that
It
what
would be
you're?
required by code, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm,
I mean, anything that you're doing to make the lower level space habitable with the window wells and the bathrooms and the ventilation and all that, you have to do it no matter what.
Well, I mean,
it's
if
a
they
basic
don't
requirement.
proceed, they wouldn't do it.
Right,
They can leave it the way it is.
exactly. Yeah,
and I
They
think
can do
that's
anything,
part of the
yeah.
question.
It's required as part of a project, yeah.
I feel like if
So I
there
would-
was a UL listed ceiling, if there was a 3-hour separation, if there was a rebuilt of the stairs, if there was a little bit more to make it actually make sense to say it's above and beyond, no matter what in the code, you have to have a 1-hour fire separation
Right.
minimum between each thing. So that's not making anything better.
Well, I would say
This-
existing, there is nothing. It's just open
In the
floor
basement
joist.
levels will have that, but not the upper
It's completely
floors.
open to
Yeah.
the units above, so anything
Yeah.
could happen in the basement and transfer to the
Yeah.
the adjacent unit. So I
So-
think minimum would be, yes, there's a clear separation either between
Yeah.
unit and a demising wall, or like you're suggesting, we're raiding the underside of the floor system itself to create a true, almost a plenum type
Yeah.
scenario.
Are you guys doing anything to that wood ceiling right now? Because it looks like it's just wood.
It'll be
And-
encased in 5/8 chip, but that would be, again, our structure, our demising walls are going right up to the underside of existing structure.
The beam
Structural
there.
beams, and then those are being wrapped in
Yeah. Mhm.
rated construction as well. So we'll have a continuity from slab up to, between each unit, and our demising walls are going to be in alignment with the demising walls up above. So we're really carrying that vertical space all the way down.
You got, we could argue saying that by adding 2 bedrooms in the basement, they couldn't occupy the 3rd floor.
Well, that-
Is that better to be in that level with an egress window than going at the fire escape, you know, if they'd be willing to?
Yeah, but I don't think, I don't think anybody, in all practicality, anybody really has any control of what happens on that top floor.
Or anywhere in the building, I mean.
Well, or anywhere in the building.
It's
And, I mean,
inspection day.
Yeah, and, I mean, one other thing that's a little bit quirky about this is that the primary entrance to the basement units is through the kitchen, which is probably one of the highest hazard areas in the building. And from the photographs, it looks like it's a really tight squeeze. I mean, maybe to cut to the chase on this, and I don't want to cut off the conversation or anything, but would you guys be amenable to the suppression system and an interconnected fire alarm system as part of the approval for the appeal?
Well, I
You wouldn't need the
think,
appeal at that point.
right, we would have to, if the board denies our appeal,
Yeah.
then we're already within a suppression system. So
Yeah.
I think the suppression system is the main point of
Yeah.
that's the reason
I
for
see.
our appeal.
That's a big
We-
benefit, yeah.
Right, we will be installing
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
fire and smoke alarm system as
Yeah.
required per code. Interconnection, I believe, is one of the requirements that we have to meet. There are exceptions, but those all involve suppression as well, from my initial reading.
You know what your water line size is? Usually that limits the variable if you can suppress a building or not. If you got a 1/2 inch or, 3/4 inch or 1 inch line, that,
An NFPR system, you would be pulling a separate fire lead. You couldn't come off domestic water, so they would have to.
We'd have to do a new
They would
tap.
have to, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Which
there's
would
a
have an
13 system, a
extensive
13R and a
tap.
13D, but this would not be a 1 and 2
Yeah.
family dwelling, so it'd be a 13R system.
Yeah.
It does require a single FDC on it. It does require its own
Okay.
fire lead water supply.
so that's the expense right there, cutting the street, getting water.
It would
line,
be
yeah.
the tap to the water
Yeah,
main for
yeah,
that.
uh-huh.
But again, it only applies to the basement if they add the bedrooms.
Any
Not
type of
to the whole-
system. Yeah, I mean, you could just sprinkle the whole house by the time you cut the
right.
lead.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then there's pipe everywhere, and
Invested into
there's still added expense to do the entire
Yeah.
building, but yes, it would be,
Yeah.
I mean, yes, you could at that point.
Yeah.
But I believe it's only required in the area. Okay. But it is quite an undertaking. I know that the tap fees alone are going to be quite expensive. Again, it's small fortune to purchase a property. It is intended to be revenue generating. We are trying to improve the existing condition, as well as, add some additional bedrooms that can capture some of that revenue generation. However, it's 8 bedrooms, and the adding a suppression system is quite a bit of an undertaking within that
Can,
consideration.
sorry, can firewalls be in UL listings supersede the fire suppression?
With a variance with equivalency, you probably could, but I mean, I think the next step with us would be protection would be a different level of alarm system, maybe more affordable than the water line. That's what's going to drive it, notification. I'm going to guess the units probably are smoke tight from side to side, so you won't get smoke from one to the next, but it will let them burn through, You may not have a pure UL rated 1 hour tested system, but
Well, what if it's like a 3-hour system,
you'd be ripping all the plaster off the walls, all the way up in the partition walls.
all the way up?
Yeah, and then probably go through the roof and,
Is there another alternative for them to, and I've been away from that portion of the code too long, but isn't there provision within an existing building that you can actually rate or create a spreadsheet of equivalency?
As part of the chapter, the
Chapter
rehab
14,
code, yeah.
I believe, yeah.
Yeah. mhm,
But,
yeah.
but just to see if the building,
A point system, yeah,
a point
Yeah.
system,
yeah, mhm, yeah.
does that have any application for this?
It's trade-offs, it's so we basically, I mean, we would need a variance if you went through that process, if as long as we made enough points.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
uh-huh.
Did you look into?
We have not run the calculations. I believe there's compartmentalization that would be
Yeah.
required for that. And I
Yeah.
know we've done it on a couple of other projects. It's quite an extensive.
Yeah, mostly incentive seems like if you sprinkle.
Right,
you
and
get the
then
most
I
points
believe
there, so that's what you're
there's a
trying
huge
for.
requirement for sprinkler.
Yeah.
But yes, we're familiar with that chapter. Are you saying that we would, if we went through that chapter 14, would a appeal still be required, or would that be a?
It depends how the points come out.
Right,
You know,
right.
you could say, oh, I'm doing something else, and, you know.
And I don't know if Chapter 10 takes you there, change in use. I don't know if it
Oh, that's
directs you.
permitted.
I'd have to look to see
Yeah.
if there's a way to that from.
Yeah, because
change in
my
use.
recollection of it is that chapter 14 keeps you out of the change of use. But again, I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't-
I'd have to look
I haven't
back.
looked at it.
Yeah.
It's only been applied
That
once or
would-
twice that I'm familiar with.
Regarding the change in use thing, I mean, it's probably always been used the way it is. It's an accessory to the rest of the house. So it's, you know, is it been finished as any particular use? No, it's unfinished, you know, so it's.
And
it's like,
connected to all the units.
You know, so, and could they build walls in the basement that separate them that would improve the fire separation down there? Probably so, you know. I mean, it seems like it is an to me, and it seems like it's an incidental accessory use. It's got mechanical stuff down there, laundry stuff down there. I mean, is the laundry all shared with one unit now, or each have their own laundry?
I believe they're shared between the two
Okay.
units
So
currently.
so they may have two between
Yeah.
units, so there is
Yeah.
some sharing, obviously
Yeah.
some sharing between units there. What is the rise and run of the stairway? Is that currently code compliant?
I believe so, yeah. I think it's right at the 8.25 max. We're not doing any kind of alteration to
Yeah,
the stair.
yeah.
We're keeping those in place.
So possibly compliant for code of the time would not
Yeah.
be compliant with current
Yeah,
code.
if it is a change in use, I guess you're saying, it would trigger more, because it's 7-Eleven, or is it,
7-Eleven.
you know, so that's,
There's, I'd have to look at it. There is an exception for stairways within a unit.
residential, yeah.
So I'd
Only
have
serving
to-
a unit or something.
Yeah, I'd have to look and see what that
Yeah,
states. but-
Yeah, uh-huh. Maybe 8-10 or something like that, or
It's
8-10.
8.25 by 10.
Yeah.
Is that
uh-huh.
The max, yeah,
exception?
8.25 is the max
Yeah.
rise.
Yeah.
So, once again, if the, if the four units continue vertically from top to bottom, and they're each separated, that the lower level of each of those units couldn't be fed off a residential
Separate line, you're saying?
suppression arrangement?
Not for a 13R system. Specifically in the NFPA code for that system, it has to have its own lead. So they can, the whole building can be suppressed, if I'm making sure I follow you directly. You don't need four separate leads coming in, it'd be one lead to the
Yeah,
building,
yeah,
but
yeah.
for a 13R system, it has to have its own fire lead, you can't be off domestic water.
Can't be shared with a domestic line, yeah.
But I guess that's my question. Once you compartmentalize each of those units, right, so the
Building's
effect-
still building-wide system, is what he's saying, building-wide line.
It's still a building-wide system. You
It is.
can't- Each segment can't work off the domestic water.
No.
No,
It's the thing that they don't want it shared with domestic for whatever reason. The domestic gets shut off, is that why you can't shut off the other one?
it's so the system can't be shut off, but it's also based off the water supply. That it has to have a dedicated water supply
yeah, yeah.
itself and not
Yeah,
off
yeah.
domestic.
Yeah.
That's, once again, that's the difference between a 13R and a 13D system. 13D is your 1 and 2 family dwellings. That comes off domestic water.
Okay.
So could they get a variance to use the 13D system? Have you ever seen that? You know, what's the risk there, you know?
By definition, no. By definition, it's a 1 and 2 family dwelling.
Yeah.
So 13D is 1 and 2 family dwellings only.
I mean, as I said before, I think my sense is that change in use is a little bit of a gray area, just because it's never been defined as a particular use down there. It's unfinished, you know. So I mean, then you look at holistic, what's the best thing as far as safety in the building? You know, probably sprinkling would be the highest, would be the best, and you know, if that's a barrier that probably not, may or may not want to cross, that means probably don't do anything. I don't know. I mean, that's pretty expensive, I'm gonna guess.
It
to cut the
is pretty
street.
expensive, and I
You
think
know.
that's, again, our, you know,
Yeah.
it is a gray area, and that, I think that's what I want to emphasize, is that the use has been, and it's been classified in multiple ways, and it is really tricky, I think,
Yeah.
to assign one,
Yeah.
whenever it is clearly serving the residents themselves.
Yeah, but now that now that you're touching it, and now that you have to classify it, that's where you have to go by that classification, and
But-
like, it's not.
But which
so-
classification, because it's been storage, utility, and now assembly.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Well,
that,
what you're
that's
changing
really,
it into. It's
Right.
not, yeah. it's-
right, but,
Well, so the end was the same as above, basically, though, is what they're
Right, is
saying.
what
You
we're
know,
saying,
Changes to the same
it's-
as above. Yeah. It's.
I guess there's no classification about what it is, other than
Right.
it's being changed, I guess.
I mean, if you ever finish your basement in a single family, is that a change of use?
But that's
A single family.
That's residential code,
Yeah,
not building.
yeah,
And I think
yeah.
that that's what, I think
leasing
that
it
there's
out.
an argument sort of leaning toward residential code requirements, and this is clearly a commercial
Yeah, yeah,
building
yeah,
that falls
yeah.
under building code.
Yeah, because of multiple units, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's where they're at.
Especially since now you're putting life safety down there, and you're gonna have people sleeping down there. And that, just because you're changing it to that, that's where the sticky, like the unfortunate situation here. It's not a bad plan, you know, and if it was mine, I'd probably want to divide it too and try to capitalize on the square footage, which you could, but now that you're putting
Well,
life safety in.
I think it's a little more than just a change of occupancy. I think it's the fact that the building is, I'm going to use the word burdened,
Sure.
is the intensity of use is increased dramatically. You know, and as far as historical classifications, I mean, historically, back in the day, it was just a residential use, period. So at some point, with this renovation, the whole thing had to be classified according to some form of current code. So the top became R2, and the bottom piece had to get something.
Right.
But it wasn't R2. So I just want to make sure I understand in terms of when we vote on this. If the appeal is denied, they have to suppress the lower level,
Correct,
just the lower level.
correct. The area that's being
Okay.
worked.
And
But
there
they have
is,
to do that no matter what? If they get two appeals denied, they're not finishing anything. Or
If,
you say non-compliant?
the building can stay as it
Yeah, yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah.
But because they're changing it,
Yeah, yeah, if
and
they
we're
move
saying a
forward.
change of use becomes
Yeah.
Chapter 10. Chapter 10 requires the area be suppressed, the
Yeah.
work area.
Yeah.
okay. And if that's the case, any further provision like the introduction of an interconnected notification system or smoke detection system, that would be above and beyond. I mean,
I think that I focused on the suppression because it was the biggest thing. I'd have to go back, but they'd have to meet
Compliant.
all the requirements.
I guess what I'm saying is it'd be implicit in that, right?
If we're looking at it, if it's a change of use,
Yeah.
everything from Chapter 10 has to comply with code,
Okay.
which Yeah, I think that there's a notification system of some sort.
Yeah, there would be a fire alarm requirement. I think even without the change of use, there's still a fire alarm requirement. So that would still be installed, and I believe it's still an interconnected system. Again, I'd have to go back and look at that. It really is the change, the declaration that there's a change of use is what triggers Chapter 10, and Chapter 10 is what triggers a suppression system. So if there is no change of use, then the fire suppression system is not required in an R2.
And it was presented and applied for under level 2 alteration,
Yes, yes.
but it was determined not to be by the building official.
Well, we're still within level 2, but the change,
But the change of
the
use
change of
changes.
use is
It's a
what's
different-
triggering
yeah.
the Chapter 10 application. So we're still under level 2 rehab code, or level 2 alteration.
Do you have enough to make a motion or any more questions?
Just trying to think of something, you know, but, I don't know.
I don't know if there's any more information the applicant would want to collect, if you want to proceed with a motion and vote, or if they would want to, look at all alternates for above and beyond what it would be, table it and, allow them time for that, or just go ahead and make a motion.
I guess if I could say, I think we're still in the position that the building, it is classified as an R2 use, that there's, I think now that we're doing work, there's a secondary look at what that lower level is, which I understand, but at the same time, that there is no clear classification that we've been presented with through all of our discussions that would fall under any particular use as outlined in the building code. Utility has been stated, storage has been stated, now assembly has been stated. And I think that really points out a gray area. And really, I think the space with the subdivision of the basement already into just a couple smaller units, and that this really is serving just the occupants of the residents themselves. And I think it does fall underneath the R2 use, or the residential use of the inhabitants.
Classified as storage and utility use, but now it's going to be classified as
S, U,
bed.
and A is what since we've submitted for a permit, those are the three that have come back to us. So it's multi-purpose. So is it now, is that, I think that's where we're a
You're
little bit.
changing the purpose of that space though now, right? Like now it's going to be bedrooms.
Well, still,
It's still-
still R2.
Still
R2 would be
R2.
bedrooms, but,
Yeah.
but I think before it was incidental as far as mechanical, laundry, anything each want to do that's
Right.
related to the residential use.
Right,
But
right.
now, it's still, associated with the residential above.
Correct.
I think if they actually had the partition walls between them, it would be clearer, than it is right now.
Yeah, I think that it being a common area plays into it, accessible by all of the upper units.
I mean, it seems a little weird that it is common that you can actually go down your stair and have somebody else's
Right,
stair and the
right.
house is not locked, Is that not particularly great either,
I like the safety aspect of it though.
Yeah,
You know, dividing it all up, no one's coming up into my house. I mean,
Yeah.
there's 5 locks on the picture that's on here on the kitchen basement door. That's
It's like a lockout tagout,
exactly.
Do you know how the bedroom hardware is set up? Do
For-
they all have privacy locks?
They will all have privacy locks. They'll have, I mean, there won't be like a true deadbolt, but it'll have like a latching, locking mechanism. On the new, we can certainly add privacy on the existing. I would think that that would be something that we would want to provide anyway. But there would be no like deadbolt, secure
Yeah,
entry
there's
into
no- there'd be
each
one
bedroom.
key
It's not
access to that
considered,
level.
right, like a shared, like housing, I guess,
Yeah,
so to speak, where you would have,
Like you rent a room.
right,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Then free egress would always be provided, of course, with those latch. If you're locking from inside the bedroom, you'd be able to get out.
To Bob's point, that the kitchen's tight, well, if they put the walls in, they could take the kitchen door off there. It's secured at that point, It wouldn't you come up the stairs and have to open the door there.
So if somebody, if you have privacy locks on the bedroom doors, if somebody happens to be on the lowest level and there's an incident, the only way out for them is up through the stair.
Egress
So the kid-
windows.
If they can't get through the bedrooms.
Well, they're in the bedroom, they're going to be in the
But
privacy
if they're
lock.
not, if they're,
You gotta lock it from the inside, don't you? The privacy is a push-button privacy.
if they're downstairs,
Uh-huh.
but they're not living downstairs, they're using the shower downstairs. Like,
Okay.
they're doing
Okay.
something
Yeah,
downstairs.
uh-huh.
And they can't get out, you can't get through either the two bedrooms to the window wells. The only way out is
Yeah,
through the stair.
yeah. Mhm.
Yes,
Yeah.
but that does meet the code minimum requirements for
75
travel
feet.
distance.
I know,
And the downstairs is,
I-
yes,
I
you're
understand.
correct.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's a pet
Yes,
thing.
no, I
with me.
understand.
I never understood
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
the logic there, but I
Yeah.
just wanted to understand that
Yeah,
the
uh-huh.
that constitutes also part of the egress for the entire
Yeah,
vertical
yeah.
segment.
Yeah. Any more questions for the applicant? From the staff? Any questions for the applicant?
Have any questions?
I mean, it seems like if there is a variance here, it would be the intent of the interpreted as far as the R2 versus being an unclassified use, It would be the only way that there would be a potential for a variance there would be, going from a gray, but the rest of it seems like it's equally or better. I think that's out, provisions don't apply, it seems like it's out, so.
Well, it could be equal or better with certain stipulations, additional stipulations, right?
Yeah,
So
that's what's proposed, yeah.
So I will give that one a try.
Okay.
Okay. I move that in the case of BBA 24-0001, the appeal of the building board's decision that the work proposed at 803 McKinley is granted relief from section 1012.2.1 of the 2015 Michigan Rehabilitation Code for existing buildings, and the Board of Appeals reverses the building official's decision for the reasons that, number 3, the applicant has proposed an equal or better form of construction through proposed improvements with the following provisions: that there be included an interconnected fire alarm system across all 4 units on all levels, and that the top level semi-habitable space is closed off,
Unoccupied, or what does that mean?
is physically
Finishes removed?
kept unoccupied.
Okay.
So
That would be the
no-
third level or second level?
would be the-
Third floor, third level?
The third level that goes through the bedrooms to get
Okay.
access to.
Any other additions or comments on the motion?
Is it possible to make a comment? The house is already being taxed at the 4,700 square feet, so if that space becomes uninhabitable, that changes the taxable value. So that the entire, if you're suggesting that the entire top level would not be considered habitable space at all, so not even the chance for a single bedroom. Is that?
I have a real problem with, I understand that the bottom level is the, sort of the primary issue having to do with change of occupancy. But looking at the configuration of the building in total, and what happens if the lower level becomes an acceptable habitable space, it just, to me, it's putting too much pressure on the building from a habitation and life safety point of view. So, so the motion is being structured more from the point of view of
Well, life safety, huh? Yeah.
more life safety than addressing the change of occupancy issue, which I'd like to talk about after when we get to the comment section. So,
I will say that it has been inspected for rental in the past.
yeah.
And I would have to look into it further, but I don't know if the third floor has been addressed by another board,
For
for
previous
use.
variance.
which is a possibility.
You have an external fire escape system. Does that go to the third floor?
It does. There is an escape directly from the third floor.
Yeah,
That's already existing. So the space
Yeah.
has already been,
yeah.
Sounds like it was
So I guess the trade-off is we're trading off one on the third floor for getting two in the basement. So two in the basement may be safer than one in the third floor, you know, is what the kind of
yeah,
balance there.
I understand, I think, the logic and
Yeah.
I think the thing that we're grappling with is that it is, we're doing something that is, allowable to add the additional bedrooms, meeting all the square footage requirements, egress requirements, ventilation requirements, and allowable number of bedrooms per unit even. So I think that is what we feel like is
So if
quite
you
a
have to sprinkle it, though.
constraint.
You'd have to sprinkle it. So you could keep the third floor if you sprinkle it, it sounds like.
Is that what?
You
is
wouldn't
being-
have to proceed with the variance. You could go ahead and comply with code, sprinkle the lower level. And
The lower
then-
level.
Yeah, you still have that option.
Got it. Okay. If that is the motion that is being presented, then we would like to rescind the appeal.
Okay. So not to cross boards.
It just, the
No,
third
no,
story had to come into play. I
I'll
actually
let-
see where you're
I
going
can
with
let-
it now.
I can let the motion stand, ending it on the part of all 4 units on all levels, and strike the part about the third or the top level being closed off, and we could just put that to a vote.
But the other part's already required by code. The interconnection hardwire connection is already by code.
Not if it's an appeal that's being granted. If it's an appeal that's being denied, then they have to follow through, if I'm understanding this correctly. If the appeal is denied, then they have to treat it as a change of use and everything that follows with that, which includes the fire alarm system and the suppression for that level.
Yeah,
If it's an appeal that's being granted, the provision of the fire alarm system through the building is an added stipulation to making it an equal or better form of construction. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's what it's sounding like
Yeah.
from what you're saying.
So
Yeah.
I'm floating this in the affirmative for the
Yeah.
vote.
Yes.
Discussion on the motion?
Well, in the application, the project description does say each unit is 2 bedrooms going to 4 bedrooms. So they don't seem to admit that they use the third floor for a bit.
It's part of the upper floor bedroom, I guess. It's continuous to the other, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. a large bedroom,
It's a large bedroom, so.
two-level bedroom.
Yeah, okay.
It's out.
Yeah, okay. Any other discussion on, well, your description of the interconnected fire alarm system throughout the entire building, is that what it was?
Across all 4 units on all levels.
I mean, actually, to kind of go off you, the existing, they're calling unit 1 just a 2-bedroom. Unit 2 a 2-bedroom, unit 3 a 2-bedroom, unit 4 a 2-bedroom. The proposed, it's going to be 4 bedrooms total, but I think you have way more bedrooms than that in this place, don't you?
Well, because that third floor is that odd condition, there's 2 bedrooms on level 2, and then that third floor space really is that kind of additional space. So if we're doing additional 2 bedrooms, sorry.
But like, don't you right now have 3 bedrooms? 2 on the 3rd floor, or 1 on the 3rd floor, 2 on the 2nd floor?
There are 3
No.
on the 2nd floor.
3.
2 on the 2nd floor.
2 on the 2nd
Correct.
floor with the big
And
bath in
then-
the back.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, 2 on the 2nd floor. You have 2 rooms on the 2nd floor. Then you have the 3rd floor, which is a habitable space right now, not being identified as a habitable bedroom. But they're calling it a bedroom right now. Paperwork issues, but
Isn't it 1, 2, 3? Well, it's 2, 3? No?
no. According
Just clarification,
This page.
there are 2 bedrooms currently.
2.
On each,
Bathrooms
2
have
on the 2nd
bathrooms.
floor, one of those is bi-level, has access to that 3rd floor space.
I'm sorry,
bath.
say that again.
2 bedrooms on the 2nd floor, the 2nd bedroom has access to one of the 2nd bedrooms has access to the 3rd floor space. So it's
Okay,
bi-level.
it's continuous to the third floor.
Right, so that the space that's
Yeah,
on
yeah.
the 3rd floor
Yeah,
can be utilized by an occupant of one of the
yeah,
bedrooms.
yeah, uh-huh. It's like a suite,
Yeah,
a
but-
two-level
Right.
suite.
It's
Yeah,
like a
uh-huh.
2-level suite.
Yeah, yeah.
So the 3rd floor is not leased out to an individual?
Correct. Correct.
The lease is on the main thing?
Right.
And that is not a bedroom up there, it's just...
It's contiguous to
It's just
the-
a
Could be a
space?
sitting
Right,
room,
right.
or maybe you can not
Correct.
sleep up there or something else, yeah, yeah. So I did have a friendly amendment to the motion, Bob, for your consideration, that we make the, on all 4 levels, that's approved by the fire marshal. So he can review it and comment about the design of the system as approved by the fire marshal, or as, you know,
So just for clarification, the fire marshal would turn it back over to the building department because the current
okay.
way that is handled within the city right now is the building
Okay.
department does do the
Do all
review for
reviews,
suppression
okay.
and alarm systems.
Okay.
So if you give it over to me, I'm going to give it back to the building.
And around we go.
So does the building department have somebody that's qualified in 13R review those systems typically? In the
Yeah,
past, you've given that.
Yeah, we have a
yeah.
couple of
Okay.
inspectors who are
Okay.
able to review those.
And they typically would submit shop drawings for that before it's put in? Is that typically how the process works? And you
Yeah.
review it at that point, and then review that it's inspected and installed that way?
Yep.
So I guess we could have that they submit shop drawings that are approved by the building department, I guess, before that they, you know, that review happen, and not that you approve them, but you review them, you know?
Yeah, just.
You don't want to take the reliability from them.
Well, and I'm just wondering if that ends us up back here.
Yeah,
If we do a review, and which is fine, you know, multiple
Yeah.
appeals can be made on
Yeah.
different subjects.
Yeah. But it gives you first line of sight of what the system going in is, you know.
And we would review it to make sure it met minimum code.
Right, yeah,
So,
I guess compliance with whatever that is, NFPA 72, you said that was the alarm system?
Yes.
So Paul, you're withdrawing your friendly amendment then? To have it as approved by the fire marshal? That was your friendly amendment?
That was my friendly amendment, yeah,
And
yeah.
you're withdrawing that?
I guess I can change it to review by the building official. That sounds like, it's the proper term.
How about this? In lieu of the friendly amendment, just say, in an NFPA 72 system approved by the building official.
Okay.
Can you explain what the motion currently is?
Sure. It's basically an appeal, to grant the appeal that you proposed an equal or better form of construction through the proposed improvements with the following provisions: that there be included an interconnected fire alarm system across all 4 units on all 4 levels, based on a NFPA, conforming to a NFPA 72 system approved by the building official.
So the third floor provision has been removed?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Does that put us right?
Is it?
Never mind.
No, not the way I understand it.
Okay.
Again, if the appeal was disapproved, was not approved, they would have to do everything that the change of use, a change of occupancy requires, meaning a fire alarm system and sprinkler system. So I'm floating an appeal be granted that, on the basis that they provided an equal or better form of construction through the improvements in the basement, with the addition of an interconnected fire alarm system.
So
That's predicated, the granting is being
we're saying it's not,
predicated on-
we're saying it's not a change in use, and then we're saying.
I'm not
that-
addressing
Okay,
that.
okay. We're just gonna say, but it's equally for, but that we won't make a ruling on the change in use.
This is turning into more of a Supreme Court. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I was going to say, if that was, we would say, because that would, making that ruling as R2 use, it would allow us to, it seemed like it would lean that way,
And
Not
that's what-
we're
that's-
not dealing with the change. in
That's
use.
right.
Yeah, but we won't, don't include that in the motion. Any other questions or comments? Anybody?
No.
All right, we have a motion.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, great. All right, those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye. Those against? So 2 against, 2 for, so it looks like it doesn't pass. So the motion's been denied, it looks like. So the motion's not granted, the appeal's not granted. So it's- I don't think there's anything else for left in this appeal. I think that's,
Okay.
thank you for your time presenting this. It was a challenging discussion there.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is old business. There is no listed old business unless staff has an old business. Anyone want to cover up any updates on? Next item is new business. Nothing on the agenda for that. And the last item on the agenda is adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Before we adjourn, can I?
Yeah.
I'd like to
Yeah.
just raise it. So this whole thing actually kind of caught me a little bit by surprise that this is, especially since the applicant has said that they've dealt with this before and somehow it's been handled before. And I just wonder at what point can the city make a determination, like just an across-the-board code determination that if these sorts of things happen again, and invariably they will, this is one of those classic, how much can we get out of a building? I'll say it. I don't know.
thinking it the whole time.
How much can we get out of a building, and at what point do you have to make the building fall in line with more current life safety considerations? And I'm sure this isn't going to be the first one that comes across the board.
Yeah.
And I actually thought this might fall into the realm of the Housing Board of Appeals.
That's what I was thinking.
It's a rental, there would be no new construction for a housing board, though.
Well, even just with the occupancy of the third floor, like,
Yeah. So
the
you think
whole
there
time
may be a
it was,
variance from
there's
there,
somebody
right?
up there, like,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
somebody there.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then at the end, it's like, oh, well, no, it's just an extended use.
It's extended sitting room, yeah.
I mean,
It's like,
Yeah.
so, and honestly, I'm going to say, for me, I had a much bigger problem with the fact that they were dense packing this building
yeah.
than the change of use business. Because, and I was actually a little bit surprised that they didn't bite at the opportunity to just suppress the lower level.
But that's the
Because
same,
I read it
it's
as
the
the
same
whole
water line
thing.
system, though. It'd be the cost for the, it's still tapping the
Well-
street. The tap for the street's big bucks, and then they got, tap fee.
But they're
and
also
then
doubling their rent.
It's not cheap, it's,
So if I can make a point of order, I think we're at the point where we need to adjourn the meeting and have a continual
Well,
discussion
anyway,
off
I was
the.
wondering why it couldn't be addressed as a local law or something like that, that just kind of puts the,
your local interpretation or the
Yeah.
ruling, but there's not really a local law. The local law is building code.
You're right, yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
No
Second,
moved.
we are adjourned at 2:36.